Hello, everybody, and welcome to our summer camp info session. Just to make sure we kind of stay on track and stay within our time frame, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So our conversation today is kind of going to be broken into two sections. So in section one, we're going to meet the director. We're going to talk a lot about safety and COVID-19 at camp. And then we're also going to go over some important dates that I think are going to be relevant for you all this summer. And then in section two, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about camp itself, where it's located, things of that nature, and then some tips for a successful summer for each one of the different methods that you might choose to join us, be it resident, day, or virtual. Now, feel free at any point in time, if you so choose, to write a question in the question answer block, but also please keep in mind that I'm the only one monitoring this, so I might just wait, and we're going to have specific paused question times at the end of each one of these sections. So like at the end of section one, we'll pause and take questions specifically relating to kind of safety and COVID at camp. And then in section two, we'll pause at the end to see if anybody has any general questions about camp overall. So let's go ahead and get started. So meet the director. That's actually me. My name's Kelly Campbell, and at camp I go by Red. No, sadly, it's not because I have red hair, as you can see in these pictures. This will actually be my 8th summer working at Camp Conowingo and my 7th as the camp director. I also worked for 5 summers before that at a different Girl Scout camp in Virginia. So if you did that math quickly, yes, you're right. This is, in fact, my 13th summer working at a Girl Scout camp. And that actually makes me even more excited for summer 2021 because 13 is my lucky number. I often get asked kind of why do I go back year after year? And one of my top answers is the growth that can happen at camp. And I'm not just talking about my staff, the growth in my staff who are there all summer, but I'm just talking about the growth potential in each and every camper that can happen in as little as a week. I also absolutely love spending my summer in the woods. It comes with little outside distractions, and I fully get to appreciate the community that's created around me. Now you might ask, what do I do when it's not summer and I'm not living in the woods? Well, during the non-summer months, I actually work full-time for council in our main office when we're allowed to do so. Obviously, right now we're all working remotely. And I develop all of our weekend outdoor programs. So think, getting girls outside, getting them comfortable with camping, target sports, programs like winter adventures, any of our high ropes programming. Those are all things that I do during the non-summer months. So let's jump into probably the one topic that's on everybody's mind and probably one of the top reasons you tuned in today, and that's COVID-19 and how it's going to impact us at camp. We know that COVID is a major concern for all of us right now, and rightfully so. And in all honesty, it's going to continue to be a big factor as we move into our summer months. So as we're looking towards summer, we at Central Maryland are creating systems to help us plan for camp safety and creating guidelines to prepare for things like health checks and sanitation, and to prevent the spread as much as possible. So now we'll spend the next couple of slides talking in depth about each one of these steps. So planning. I know that it can feel really hard right now to plan anything these days. There are constantly changes coming all of our ways, big and small. We all know that pivot was probably the most used term in 2020. And in all reality, I think that it's going to continue to be the it word in 2021. But that all said, we are working to make our plans. We're working closely with our advanced nurse practitioner who oversees our health protocols to monitor national, state, and local guidelines and recommendations to help us build a comprehensive health and safety plan for this summer. On the screen, you can see some of the top agencies that we follow to create our guidelines. And some of them include the American Camping Association, the Association of Camp Nurses, Girl Scouts of the USA, and GSCM's guidelines, along with the state and county health departments that impact us directly. As any good Girl Scout, we're always prepared. And as we're planning for 2021 safety guidelines, we're also preparing and researching the current best practices. So again, with the help of our nurse practitioner and guidance, excuse me, from our local and national agencies, we're looking into the non-pharmaceutical interventions that we can safely implement at camp. These are also called NPIs, so those non-pharmaceutical interventions. And these are actions apart from getting vaccinated and taking medicine that we can implement at camp to help decrease the spread. So again, on the screen, you can see a few of the NPIs that we are going to be implementing this summer. And they cover almost every part of camp, from sanitation and airflow to program schedules, sleeping assignments, and even things like pool time. So as I bet that you already know at home and that you're, excuse me, very familiar with, the top 3 NPIs for all campers and staff every day at camp will be the 3 W's. We're going to wear a mask, we're going to wash our hands, and we're going to watch our distance whenever possible. I know that you guys are all probably professionals now these days at these 3 things, and I bet you even have your favorite hand washing song. I know that I do anytime I wash my hands. But these aren't the only 3 NPIs that your camper is going to experience while at camp this summer. And so we can talk a little bit about others a little later on. So masks are a big part of our daily lives right now. And in all honesty, they're going to be a big part of our daily lives at camp. Everyone will be wearing masks at camp. All campers, all staff, and even parents, relatives, or siblings at drop-off and pickup times. That's at camp and at the bus stop. Masks are going to be required. Masks are important, especially when it's hard for us to be physically distanced, or if there's an activity that has to be done inside, or we have to be inside due to a thunderstorm or something of that nature. Now, one of the perks of coming to camp is that you get to spend almost all day outside. And while we plan to encourage masks at camp whenever possible, there will be times when they can't be worn. Think kayaking or swimming in the pool. However, the CDC recommends that we change our masks as often as every day. So for our day campers, we are asking that you not only wear the mask that you come in, but that also you have a backup in your backpack, which we'll talk about later. And for our overnight campers, this means bringing the 6 masks for the 6 days that you're with us, and then also probably like 3 spares. We're going to be outside. They could get wet. They could get dirty. We don't want to reuse them. And so we just want to make sure that we have some available. The other thing that we're going to recommend is that you label your masks by day of the week, and that you put your camper's initials on them or her name, so that she knows, for whatever reason, in case it drops on the cabin floor, she knows exactly which masks is hers and which mask she should be wearing that day. I'm not saying that you need to go out right now and buy pre-labeled or monogrammed masks. You can continue to use the ones that you're currently using. Cloth and disposable masks are both great options. You can add the days of the weeks and her initials with pen, Sharpie, even puffy paint, something that's just going to last the week with her, or the week while she's with us at camp. So one of the ways that we're working on preventing, or hopefully preventing, the spread at camp this summer is that girls are going to notice smaller group sizes at camp, which will mean fewer girls per cabin. I think that this could be a positive in some ways, for our brownies who, when their luggage makes it into their cabin, something magical happens and an explosion occurs. Regardless, it doesn't matter. And brownie luggage just goes everywhere. And so maybe with fewer brownies inside the tent, it'll prevent or maybe help reduce the amount of, missing bathing suits, or making sure that your camper goes home with her left sock and not another person's left sock. And, for our older girls, they might appreciate the smaller cabin capacities because it'll give them a little extra kind of personal space throughout the week. So how drastically are we reducing our camp sizes? Like, what does that mean in all reality? So in previous years, when your camper came to camp, she might have been in a program of 21 campers all the way up to 35 campers, depending on the program she signed up for. And this year, our girls will be in programs from 8 to 20 at its max, and there are very few of those. So it's a pretty significant decrease in our camper population, but we think that this will really help us decrease that spread, and it allows us to really enhance that physical distancing that's required at the moment. Now, that said, we will still be meeting all of our Girl Scout ratio guidelines for staffing purposes, so we're not reducing the number of our staff. Will there still be the number of staff that are required to make sure that your camper is not only safe, but also is having an amazing time at camp? With that said, though, talking about kind of overnight cabin space for our resident campers, we've always had a policy where we request that girls only request one buddy, so it is in fact a buddy pair. And this year we are basically full on insisting, and it's a requirement because our cabin sizes are going to be reduced, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the general camp information session. But we're going to emphasize that a buddy pair is in fact just two girls, and that camper A requests camper B, and camper B requests camper A, and that makes them a buddy pair, and then they will be in a cabin together. So one of the other things that we're working on in terms of prevention, the health and safety of our campers and staff have been at the top of our priority list in every summer that we've run. We have signs around camp that say safety first, fun second, and it is something that we really implement during the summer throughout all of our policies and our programming. And this summer is going to be no different. The health and safety of our campers and our staff is going to be our top priority. We know, though, however, that things are going to change between now and summer. The plans that we're making, the things that we're trying to put in place now might need to be altered by the time your camper arrives. We're aware of that. We want to make you aware of that. And we're just asking that everyone be flexible kind of as we make these changes and these updates together. So as of right now, we're planning that campers and staff will complete a pre-screening form of some kind prior to their arrival at camp. This form is going to be in addition to your normal kind of health forms that you fill out online through our registration system, and in addition to any specialized health forms for asthma, allergies, or if you're bringing medications to camp. We don't entirely know what this form is going to look like yet, but we're closely monitoring the regulations and the recommendations from the CDC and the state health departments to kind of develop the questions that we're going to need you all to answer for us to keep track of. We also know that health check-in and just normal check-in at camp is going to look different this year. We're adapting the process now, but anticipate updating it and fine-tuning it as we get closer to the start of camp. So for example, in our big Great Adventures booklet, we put in there that check-in is going to be staggered based on your camper's either program or age or grade level. That's what our current plan is, but that might be fine-tuned, altered a little bit as we get closer to camp. And so I can guarantee that all parents will receive information regarding exactly what to expect at check-in and check-out prior to your camper's arrival. And when I say prior to her arrival, probably about 2 weeks ahead of time, she'll receive that email from us, or you'll receive that email from us, letting you know what you can expect at check-in and check-out for both our day and our overnight campers. So again, depending on health recommendations, things you might see are those staggered arrival times. There might be solely a car check-in and check-out where only your camper gets out of the car. We do the process with her, we get her luggage out, and then the car keeps going and nobody else kind of steps out onto camp. It might be just the pre-check-in form, and then again, those staggered arrival times. So these are all things that we're considering. We're working through the guidelines and the requirements and with our nurse practitioner about what the best method for everyone involved is going to be for this summer. And then an additional thing that we're going to be focusing a lot on this summer is daily check-ins between our staff and our campers. Now, our staff have always done check-ins with their campers every day, even if the campers kind of weren't aware that that's what they were doing. And they do this just to make sure, that they're having a good time, that their needs are being met, there's no concerns, things of that nature. And then this year during staff training, we're going to add a few questions for the staff to ask the campers each day that will help them determine if someone's not feeling well and maybe they need to go see our health center staff. So cleaning is obviously another one of those top preventative steps. And one of the ways that we've always cleaned camp in the past are what we call camp capers. Capers is the camp word for chores for all of my new parents on the webinar tonight. And these might look a little different this summer. Campers are still going to play an active role in helping to run camp and clean up after themselves, but they're going to have a lot of help this year as well. So we're going to be ramping up our cleaning procedures this year, things like sanitizing each activity area after every group. There's going to be routine surface cleaning that we know helps to eliminate normal germs, and then especially this year with the COVID-19 virus from frequently touched surfaces and objects, things like program supplies, door handles, tables, chairs, paddles, and more. Campers usually help wipe down tables after meals and activities. And so now they may also be asked to help wipe down bows after archery or paddles after canoeing or kayaking, or other shared kind of program supplies. However, that said, our staff are going to be the ones who focus on high-touch communal camp areas, such as bathrooms, doors, shower houses, dining areas, etc. And all of our camp staff will be following enhanced cleaning procedures at the end of each session to ensure that things like the cabins, the tents, the beds, and all other shared kind of living quarters or just shared communal spaces are sanitized prior to the next group of campers' arrivals. This could be at the end of each day when they're cleaning and sanitizing in preparation for the next day of our day campers, or the deep cleaning that will occur at the end of every overnight week as well. And we're working again through those procedures. The director of properties and myself were actually at camp recently testing out a sprayer where we can potentially put our cleaning chemicals in there to spray it down, and what that might look like for camp, and if it's our best option or if we need to look into different methods. So again, just as an example, that we're actively working through this process to make sure that your camper's experience is as safe as we can make it. Now, obviously, in addition to all of those things, hand washing, right? One of the things that we talked about a little earlier on. We're going to have scheduled hand washing times. We're going to make sure that we're washing our hands before every meal, between activities, things of that nature. But there will also be extra hand sanitizer stations throughout camp this year. We normally, in years past, have only had hand sanitizer at the dining hall, but this year we'll have it stationed throughout camp in case a camper needs it or a staff member. Yes, your camper can bring her own hand sanitizer. We just ask that if she's going to bring her own, because that makes you and or her feel safer, which is totally okay, that she not share her hand sanitizer. I've already encountered 2 Girl Scouts during some of my outdoor programs who couldn't use the hand sanitizer I was providing due to an allergy. And so we would just ask that any camper who wants to bring her own hand sanitizer, which again is totally fine, that she not share it. And our staff will be aware of that as well, and we'll try and monitor that as necessary. So the other kind of big question area that I've been getting concerning COVID and camp this summer is the dining hall and our meals. Now, we're working with our professional food service provider to plan how to safely serve our meals to all of our campers and our staff at camp. We're partnering with our food service provider that we've been using for the past several summers. They're amazing, they're wonderful, they're very detail-oriented. However, similar to check-in, we're going to know a lot more about how meals and how the dining hall are going to work a lot closer to camp, and as those COVID-19 guidelines are updated. So we're preparing, again, for a large variety of options to accommodate those smaller group sizes. And this might include things like shift meals. Right now, we only have one time for breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner. So maybe we now have 2 times for each of those things. Or potentially, that some of our groups eat inside and some of our groups eat outside. Maybe we're doing an extra pack out or cook out each week. We're not entirely sure what it's going to look like, but again, we're working through all of those options with our food service provider to figure out what's going to work best for us at Conowingo for 2021. There are a few things that I do know that I can tell you right now that are going to be different this year. One of them is our salad bar. So at breakfast time, our salad bar normally has things like yogurt and granola and fruit and little things of individual milks. And then obviously at lunch and dinner is an actual salad bar with everything that goes with that. However, that's normally an open buffet style salad bar, and we are not going to be doing that this year. So instead, we're going to be doing prepackaged salads by our on-site food service staff. So that'll go directly from them to our camper, like from their hands to a camper's hands, with no cross-contamination in between. And the other thing that will also be different is our snacks during the day. So we have snacks each day for our day and our overnight campers. And so these snacks will also be prepackaged for individual portions to, again, limit the possibility of crossover contamination. So I know that was a lot of information, but we just want to try and share with you as much information as we have now and the steps that we're taking to work on the safety at camp this summer as it concerns to COVID-19, all the steps we're taking to plan, all the things that we're hoping to do to prepare, and then the things that we're doing as well to hopefully prevent and mitigate the spread of COVID-19. So I just wanted to talk about the dates, the important dates that we have this summer, and then I'll pause for questions and try and get to the ones that are in the question log. So you can see here, so February 1st, 8 a.m., registration opens for all of our camps. So if you're coming to camp for resident camp, our overnight programs, if you're coming to camp for our day camp, or if you're joining us online for our virtual programming, all 3 of those methods of camps open on February 1st at 8 a.m. March 14th is the last day to be eligible for the early bird price that's associated with camps. On March 15th, those prices will go up. On March 16th at 7 or thereabouts, we're going to start our live camp chats, which I host. And the live camp chats there's 5 episodes. They happen every 2 weeks, and we cover different topics during each one of the episodes. So episode 1, if I'm totally honest with you, is basically this presentation, again, for people who haven't been able to tune in or watch of that nature. And so you might not want to tune in unless there are COVID updates. And so similar to this presentation, we'll do COVID at the beginning so you can tune in, ask questions, and then for the part that you've already seen or the part that you already know about, you can kind of exit if you want, or you can join us for the whole time. June 15th, all balances are due this year on the 15th of June. You can register for camp after the 15th of June. It's just that you'll be required to pay in full as opposed to having monthly options at the moment. June 20th is open house, and we'll talk a lot more about this later on in the presentation, but I highly recommend joining us for open house on June 20th. And then June 26th to the 27th is our Girls Just Want to Have Fun program. So this is an overnight program that we host at camp. And it's open to any of our campers, virtual day or overnight, or people who are not necessarily coming to camp this year, but want to get a feel for camp while their favorite female role model is tagging along and joining in on the fun with her. And so this program goes from 10 a.m. on Saturday to 10 a.m. on Sunday. So those are some of our important dates that we feel like might be useful for everybody. So now I'll pause and give me a second as I go back through the question log, and I'll make sure that I read them out loud. So one of the first questions is, will vaccines be required for attendance, or are we going to require them for our staff? That's a really difficult question for us to answer at the moment. I mean, right now, I don't necessarily think that our staff are going to be eligible yet for the vaccine. And so if they're not eligible, we obviously can't require it. But past that, we haven't had any super in-depth conversations about whether or not we'll be requiring the vaccine for our staff attendance this year. So the next question is about buses and transportation and how that's going to work this year, how we're going to be operating our buses. So I should say that bus transportation, first I'll say, is available for both our day camp and our resident camp campers. And then they're going to be operating at a half capacity, which is what they're currently doing for school counties that are in operational, not just in Maryland, but outside. And there are actually guidelines for school bus transportation, which is what we'll be implementing even for like our coach buses for resident camp. And so that's, again, at the half capacity. Girls will be in masks on the bus, and then they'll be in alternating seats. So like some of the seats in between them will be closed, and we'll make sure that we mark those off so that it's very obvious to our campers when they get on the bus what seats are open for them to sit in and which ones aren't. Let's see, there's another question about masks that I said encouraged but not necessarily required. Are they going to be required to be worn, and are there activities where they are not going to be required to be worn? So yes, kind of to all of the above. So there are going to be instances where masks are required, if you can't keep that physical distance. So let's take the high ropes course or even the low ropes course as an example. Those are two activity areas where it's just not possible to maintain that 6-foot distance. And so the staff and our campers will be in masks at all times during activities of that nature. If they're on the sports court and they're outside and they're maintaining that distance, then that's going to be an area where masks are going to be encouraged, but not necessarily required. Now, if they move inside from the sports court because of a thunderstorm or something else, then everybody's then going to have to put their masks on, because then we're indoors and we're probably, in that instance, not going to be able to maintain our physical distancing. We are not going to require masks for water-based activities, so kayaking, pool, things of that nature. And then also I should mention, I've gotten a question separately, not on here, but via email about shower capacities. So we've always previously limited the number of girls who can go in and shower. This year, we're going to be fine-tuning that system to really emphasize the number of girls allowed in the pool house at one time, and making sure that they've all showered and gone through that process and are out before we let the next group of girls in. Again, it's going to be a flexible process where we think we know what we're going to be implementing in place. Our first set of campers might show us that there's a little bit differently of a way that we can do it and kind of adjust it and make it easier and smoother. But we are going to be limiting the number of girls that are allowed in our pool house, which is where the showers and the changing rooms and things of that nature are located during the summer. So yes. So there's another question about international staff. What's happening there? Are we going to allow international staff this year? What I can say is we are planning for international staff. I do have some international staff hired. We're working closely with our hiring agency, and then we're also monitoring kind of all of the rules and regulations that are currently impacting the J1 visa. I believe, and again, this process we're working on it, but I believe that we're going to require our international staff and our American staff, if I'm honest, to quarantine before arrival to camp for a certain amount of time. We're then, for our international staff, once they do arrive a few days later, we're actually potentially going to have them get tested. And then we still have that time where we have where it's just the staff on property and we're doing staff training even before our campers arrive. So we feel like there's going to be enough time for them to kind of quarantine, even though some of that will be at camp, where we'll know if there's been an exposure even before our first campers step onto camp for our first week of kids. Excuse me. let's see. Make sure. I want to just double check that I've answered all the questions that are in there currently for COVID, and then we can potentially move on. And again, as questions pop up, you're more than welcome to put them in the Q&A section, and then I can, just double check that we hit them all at the end as well. Okay. So I think that I got all of them. But again, if anything comes up later, my contact information is at the end of this webinar, and please feel free to email me as needed. So we'll go ahead and move on to section 2. So section 2, we're going to be talking a lot more just kind of in general about camp, and then some tips that I can offer to kind of help us have a little bit more of a successful summer. They'll all just be suggestions merely. So one question I get is why the outdoors? Like, why camp? Now, I could literally go on and on and on about the many benefits to a camp experience. I mean, just other than it being fun, but the girls really also then are given an opportunity to gain independence and are able to disconnect for an entire week. Obviously, that's not necessarily applied to our virtual campers, but for our on-site programming, that disconnect, that ability is, I think, really important. Camping promotes physical play and encourages our girls to be active for a lifetime. Being outdoors promotes attention restoration. Spending time in nature has been shown to improve concentration and creative reasoning among children, including those with attention deficits. One thing that I hear occasionally throughout the summer, which always makes me smile, is parents or guardians will reach out and they'll say, wow, my camper came home from camp and is volunteering. She's helping out around the house. She's doing way more than she was before she left. And I can't pinpoint to you exactly why that happens. It's all part of kind of the camp process, but it is just kind of a nice benefit to kind of a Girl Scout outdoor program type environment. So let's talk a little bit more about those benefits of an outdoor program. Since the inception of Girl Scouts in 1912, Girl Scouts has helped to build girl leaders in the outdoors. Now, they've been guided by supportive adults and peers. And I'm not just talking about during camp, right? This is an outdoor program. I'm talking about also the leaders and the volunteers and the parents and the guardians who help guide our girls in non-summer months as well. And through that process, Girl Scouts are able to discover the wonders of nature, experience the thrill of adventure, challenge themselves and one another to reach new heights. And these experiences really hone their outdoor and leadership skills. They're able to inspire environmental stewardship and reinforce friendships that last a lifetime. And that last one really is important to me, I guess. I find that one especially rewarding. We have numerous campers who may not be in the same troop, they may not even live in the same county or even the same state for some of our campers, but I know they've told me, as have their parents and guardians, that they connect once the camp brochure comes out, and they pick which week they want to come to camp together because they're camp friends and they want to be at camp and reinforce that friendship that we know will then last for a very, very long time, which is just really awesome. When asked why is Girl Scout camp different, like what's the number one reason why that sets Girl Scout camp apart, I always fall back on leadership. Girl Scout camp allows girls to explore the outdoors in an all-girl environment guided by the Girl Scout leadership experience. So at camp, girls are able to build new skills, learn new things, and feel proud and confident, helping them develop a stronger sense of self. And leadership opportunities are really built into all areas of camp. Whether a camper realizes it or not, she's experiencing leadership opportunities that are going to help her grow into the leader that we know she can be or that she wants to be. Some of these occurrences, some of those leadership opportunities are just speaking up and leading her group across a a low ropes element where they're working on team building and helping them complete the goal that was set out for them. Or maybe it's that she volunteers to lead a camp song for her group, or even maybe for the whole camp. Sometimes it's as simple as walking at the head of a buddy line and getting their group safely from point A to point B. Or for some of our campers, it's things like helping their new bunkmates settle into their cabin and feel comfortable during her first night of camp. All of these things are examples of where our girls are taking on that leadership aspect. It's really awesome to see. That kind of goes back to when I said, the growth potential for during each and every week for each and every one of our campers is an amazing thing to watch. And leadership opportunities are a huge, huge part of that. So where is camp? If I'm sending my camper to Camp Conowingo, where is she going? So as you can see on the screen here, we've got kind of a map of Maryland and all of the counties. I've highlighted the counties that make up Central Maryland. The big red star is kind of, obviously not to scale, where our office is, our main office. And then out a little bit past that green line where you see our Conowingo logo and that arrow is where camp is actually located. So it's actually a little over an hour northeast of Baltimore City, located in Cecil County. And it sits on 600 acres of woodlands and open fields along the Susquehanna River. It's actually a really, really pretty, just an awesome piece of property. So one of the things that is, I think, important about camp and sets us apart from some of the other camps around us is that we're actually an American Camp Association accredited camp. So accreditation really means that we, GSCM, and our camps undergo a thorough review process by outside camping professionals. So what I mean is, as a Girl Scout camp, we're going to meet all of GSUSA's guidelines. So these are going to be the same for our troop leaders and our other volunteers. If you're familiar with the safety activity checkpoints, these are the things that we're also implementing at camp. So those are some things that you're going to be familiar with. We also meet all of the Maryland youth camp regulations to run as an accredited youth camp. And then we take that a step further and we have become ACA accredited, which means that we follow these 3 distinct guides on how to properly run a camp. And then every so often, ACA will send out some camping professionals to come and walk around our camp, look through our binders and our rule books and our staff manuals, things of that nature, to make sure that we're doing and we're following through with all the things that we say we're doing. So resident camp, the overnight camp at Camp Conowingo's last accreditation year was 2016, and day camp's last accreditation year was 2018. And both camps are actually up for review in 2022. So not this summer, but the summer after. So which camp is right for you? And when I say you, I mostly mean your camper. So again, we have 3 different ways for your camper to engage with us this summer. I'm actually kind of really excited to have 3 different options. Prior to 2020, we only had our traditional resident camp program, which is overnight based. And so for girls who maybe weren't ready for overnight programs or didn't want to engage with us that way, there was really no way for us to interact with her. But now we have these 2 other methods of camp that I'm excited will be joining us this summer. So which one's going to be right for your camper, for you, and for your family? So again, our traditional resident camp is for girls who kind of have stayed away from home for at least 2 nights or more, didn't have any major issues, or at least didn't have any major issues that she couldn't solve while she was there with the help of the adult that was in attendance. Like, she didn't need to call home or call you to work through that process. This camp actually runs Sunday to Friday, so it's a Sunday arrival and a Friday departure for 4 weeks this summer. Those sessions are 1, 2, 4, and 6. This program is going to be for girls entering grade 2 all the way up to girls entering grade 12. And I emphasize that because I think there was a little bit of confusion in terms of, for some of our girls, which postcards they received. But you are going to be registering for the grade your camper is entering in the fall. So for all of our campers who are in 1st grade right now, you aren't actually eligible for resident camp, you would register for Brownie programs. If your camper is currently an 8th grader, she would be registering for senior level programmings because she would register for that 9th grade level. So at resident camp, campers are going to enjoy a really large variety of program choice. You know, each one of our programs are themed. They'll be doing the activities listed in the program description. We call those our promises. And then in addition to that, girls will rotate through kind of our core traditional activities, things like swimming at the pool, going to arts and crafts, participating in nature and STEM, and going to our low ropes course to work on team building, things of that nature. Now, day camp, which again is also being hosted at Camp Conowingo this year for the first time ever by council, which I'm really excited about. Again, this will be a new adventure for us, expanding our offerings for our Girl Scouts. So day camp, as I'm sure everybody's kind of going to be familiar, means that the girls go home at the end of each day. There are no overnights associated with the day camp. Those programs are going to run for 3 weeks this summer, sessions 3, 5, and 7. They're going to be for girls entering kindergarten through 8th grade for our day camp programs. Similar to our resident camp, each one of our programs is themed. They're going to be doing the activities listed in their program, which we again call our promises, and then they'll rotate through the traditional core camp activities, rock wall, pool, arts and crafts, things of that nature. So if your camper is, unsure about staying away for an entire week, or maybe you're unsure about your camper staying away for an entire week, and she wants kind of the comfort of being able to go home at the end of each night and sleep in her own bed, totally understandable. And in that instance, I would suggest day camp versus overnight camp for that particular camper. But again, buses are available because we recognize Conowingo is pretty far away for some of our camp families, and so bus stops are available. I will say that we don't exactly know where those bus stops are going to be. I can tell you which counties they're going to be in. So for our day camps, there are going to be 2 buses, and they will those buses will each have 2 stops before going to camp. And our stops are going to be, one will be located in Anne Arundel County, one will be located in Howard County, one will be located at our main office, again, which is in Baltimore City. And then another one will be located either in northern Baltimore County or southern Harford County. And so those would be the 4 options in case you want to sign up for buses at day camp. Now, for our girls and our families who aren't quite ready to in-person camp a shot this summer, which we, again, totally understand, we are going to be continuing with our virtual camp options this summer. So these we started last year. We ran our first virtual camps in 2020, and we had some success. Our virtual camps are going to run the same weeks as our day camps, so sessions 3, 5, and 7. These are going to be open to any Girl Scout level all the way across the board. So our daisies all the way to our ambassadors will have virtual camp options if that's the way they want to interact with us. Day camp is going to run Monday to Friday from 9 a.m., which will be sign in, until noon, which will be the time we sign out at the latest. So the programs are going to be the same as our day camp. So they'll be working on similar themes. And the only difference is then when our day campers, or excuse me, our virtual campers log off, our day campers will then enjoy those in-person activities we talked about. For our virtual campers, supplies are included in your day camp fee. And the supply boxes will be available for pickup probably the weekend or the week prior to your camper session. And if you're living, either you can't pick it up, or you live too far away, or you just would prefer to have it shipped to you, that is also an option this year. There'll just be an additional shipping cost added on for people who select that option. So once you've picked your program, you and your camper, and she kind of has her top choice, maybe a backup choice as well, it'll be time to register. We're using RegPack this year. This will be the second summer that we're utilizing the RegPack system. So for our returning campers, all of your information will still be in there. You're going to use the same email and password you selected last year. For our new camp families, this will be a system where you can create an account for all of your campers, and then year after year, the information is saved, which will be which is nice. You don't have to re-enter in all of her immunization records unless something's been updated. Things of that nature will all be saved, and you just go in and say, yep, this is the same, yep, this is the same, all good to go here. The system isn't currently ready. I'm actually hoping that it goes live on Friday, January 22nd, but it might be Monday the 25th, which would then give you a week to kind of set your account up, and or for our returning parents, double check that you remember your email and password from last year. So once you are ready for that, you're going to go to our website, and this is actually last year's, what last year's looked like, but it'll look very similar. It's just that our options over here have changed, because it'll say resident camp, and then it'll say day and virtual camp, and then it'll say just camp forms. So if you click resident camp or day and virtual, it then lists all your options, and then you'll see this big green register button. You'll want to click that register button, even if you already have an account. And then it'll take you to the RegPack system, which you'll see here. If you need an account, you'll enter in first name, last name, email, password, and then that email and password are going to be what you use moving forward. So please make sure you remember it. I cannot reset your password for you. You'll need to do that yourself. So if you already have an account, you'll go up here to log in, enter in that email and password. If you don't remember it, which is totally fine, there is a reset password option. If this was not a screenshot, I could scroll down and show you. But down here, it'll say reset password. You'll get a password reset links to the email address on file, and then you'll be able to kind of handle that from there. So probably one of the top questions I get in a non-COVID year is, where am I going to sleep? Or where is my camper going to sleep? I have 4 options. It's really kind of like 4.5, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. No, I cannot tell you where your camper is going to be sleeping, with the exception of the brownies. So every program will be assigned a unit, and within that unit will be their sleeping structures. So for instance, as a brownie, you might sign up for fairies and fireflies, as an example. And if you signed up for that program, you would then be staying in Trailing Pines, which is the unit. And in that unit are yurts. These round, circular canvas buildings. They're actually a lot of fun. In the yurts, normally sleep 7. However, again, remember, we have a smaller capacity this year. And instead, we'll only sleep 4. So there'll be only 4 brownies per yurt. And there are 3 yurts in Trailing Pines. The other options, so again, Trailing Pines is where the brownies sleep. So if you are doing a brownie program, it's the only program where I can say pretty confidently that this is where they will be, because it's the closest unit to main camp. So they have the smallest commute possible for like activities and such. For our juniors, you actually have 2 options, one of which is our teepees, which is a fan favorite for obvious reasons. And then what's not obvious on why it's a fan favorite is because our teepees actually have bunk beds in them, which are really cool. So our teepees and our Glen shelters are the 2 junior program options. I can't tell you which one they're going to be in until a lot closer to summer. So our teepees actually normally sleep 8. There are 4 bunk beds in there. However, again, our max capacity this year is going to be 4 girls for our teepees. And in our Glen shelters, they would normally sleep 6. And the max capacity, again, will be 4 for those units. For our older girls, they actually have 3 options. One of them are our platform tents, which in all honesty, when I was unit staff, platform tents were my favorite sleeping unit across the board, no doubts, no questions. In our platform tents, there will only be 3 girls, max capacity. Our older girls will also be in Glen shelters for some of their units. And then we also have cabins, which are very similar to Glen shelters, but they have a smaller capacity. And so in our cabins, there will only be 3 girls. So again, that goes back to our smaller capacities this year. So in any of our sleeping units, there will be no more than 4 girls per structure. And for some of them, there will be 3. So these are our different living units. And again, I won't know which one your camper is going to be in until much closer to camp. Oh, the other thing that I should mention that I've gotten a question about is the staff. So one of the questions is, where do the staff sleep? If you're talking about, if I'm talking about 4 girls per cabin, is that 3 girls and 1 staff? And it's not. So the staff are in separate cabins or structures or what have you. So like in the teepees, there are 4 teepees with girls in them. And then there's a cabin kind of over to the side here that is where my staff sleep. You can think of it as, bedrooms, you being down the hall from your camper's bedroom kind of thing. It's not, all of our staff cabins are within the unit. They're centrally located, and they also have, we put out lanterns or lights on the outside of all of our staff cabins so that if a camper needs a staff member in the middle of the night, it's literally like a beacon where they know exactly where to go. Doesn't matter what time of night it is, because they're going towards the light. And then my staff will be able to help them with whatever it is that they need. But again, my staff do not sleep in the same structure as my campers. So the next couple of slides are going to be resident camp specific, and then we'll do day camp, and then we'll talk about virtual camp, and then we'll get back to kind of things that apply across the board. So what about daily life at resident camping? What's a typical day at camp if you're coming for overnight look like? I hesitate to say typical because, there are changes in the schedule that happen frequently. Again, a thunderstorm might roll through and we can't be in the pool. So what are we doing now? But for the most part, this is what our days are going to look like. So 7 a.m. wake up, generally speaking. Everybody has to be at flag by 7:45. We then have breakfast. After breakfast, we do those capers, those camp chores all across camp. And then we jump into our activity times. Activity blocks during the day are an hour and a half long. So there are 2 activity blocks prior to lunch. Lunch is at 12:30. Then we have me time or rest hour. And for our resident camp parents, this is when mail is delivered. Is that 1:30 to 2:30 block. 2:30, we jump back into activities. Again, they're an hour and a half long. We have 2 of them. 4 o'clock, we do a quick snack on the way to our next activity. 5:45, everybody's back together for evening flag. 6 o'clock is dinner. And then if we're doing an all camp activity after dinner, that'll start around 7 or 7:15. If we're not doing that, we are, depending on our Girl Scout level, doing additional activities after dinner. However, our after dinner activities are not an hour and a half long. They're normally hour and 15 at tops. So for our brownies, for example, they probably don't have an activity after dinner. They're probably heading back to their unit to do any unit time things that they need to work on. Or they're, heading back, getting ready for an earlier bedtime than most. For juniors, they probably have 1 activity after dinner, and then they're going back to their unit to get ready for bed. And then for our cadets and our seniors and ambassadors, they definitely have an activity after dinner, and some nights we'll have 2 activities after dinner. With that said, though, I can guarantee that across camp, unless they're signing up for the Insomniacs program where they're intentionally staying up late, all of our programs are in bed, lights out, hopefully sleeping by 10 p.m. each and every night to get up and do it all again the next day. So what about some tips? The first one that I always talk about is the packing list. And I'm going to talk about it for 2 different reasons. One, when it comes to packing, please, please, please allow your camper to take the lead on packing her suitcase. I know that oftentimes as the adult, we can feel that we can do it or pack it better. We can do it quicker, more concise, make sure it's really streamlined. And in all reality, I am sure that this is the case. However, when your camper arrives to camp and she goes to unpack her suitcase for the first time to set up her bed or to pull out her flashlight or just whatever the case may be, it is extremely helpful for her to know where it is in her bag because she packed it. It can literally be the difference between having a fun and successful first day, setting us up for an amazing week of camp, or be the beginnings of homesickness. And I know that this might sound dramatic, but it really, really makes a difference. It's something throughout the years that I've really realized that if she can go into her suitcase, pull something out and not miss a beat, she gets right back to the activity and there's nothing else for her to worry about. But if she has to search, she starts to think that like, oh, you know, there should be another adult here that I'm more comfortable with that could help me find these things. They know where it is. I wish they were here with me. Why aren't they here with me? I wish I could go home. And that really is the steps that we take. So please, 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 you know, do it with her. I'm not saying, you know, send her into her room and just have her do it solo. You know, print out the packing list if possible, or pull it up on a screen. Maybe cross out the things that she doesn't need. Like if she's not coming for riding camp, you can cross out all those extra pants that she doesn't have to bring. And then make it a checklist. You know, once she picks an item up, she checks it off, puts it in her bag, kind of thing. And do it together, but making sure that she's taking the lead on that and really owning that process. And then the other thing about the packing list specifically that I will recommend, is a fitted sheet. You know, there are several different options for sleeping. You know, is she sheets and blankets? Does she prefer a sleeping bag? You know, whatever the case may be. Either way, I recommend a fitted sheet. You know, even for sleeping bag users, you're moving, you're grooving, you're tossing and you're turning. You end up outside that sleeping bag because maybe you got hot. It's just nice to end up on a fitted sheet versus on the mattress. And there's nothing wrong with the mattress. It's just a lot more comfortable to be on that fitted sheet. But again, totally a recommendation. Each and every camper is going to be different. So the other thing that I have to encourage and remind our parents is please don't bring anything that you or your camper deem important, or something that you wouldn't, if you're going to be upset if it doesn't come home in the same condition or doesn't come home at all, don't bring it to camp, right? So we have a no technology policy at camp that goes for cell phones. Please don't send cell phones with your campers. We don't have laptops or computers or e-readers or anything else of that nature. So please don't bring any technology, nothing super valuable of that nature. Again, remember, I really value the unplugged, disconnected experience that your camper is going to receive by spending the week with us. And so please don't send any technology. The other thing is please don't send any food with your camper. I know that sometimes food can be a comfort, right? We've all been there, and that's okay. However, due to allergies, we ask that you please not send food in the mail or in her suitcase or anything of that nature, just because you guys aren't going to be aware of what the allergies in her group are. If you do need to send food for dietary restrictions or for supplemental purposes, that is totally okay. Please have a conversation with me, you know, via email, and we will store all of that food for you and your camper in the kitchen, and then she'll have access to that at meal times or when she needs it. The other thing that we ask you not to bring is money. If you want to bring money for Trading Post, please turn that in at check-in. We would hate for it to get lost somewhere along the way and then her not to have that money for Trading Post at all. And then the other thing that we all deem as valuable and important is our Girl Scout uniform. However, we don't wear our uniform at camp. We're outside, we're getting dirty, things are getting messy. And I would hate for that uniform that you and or your camper have spent a lot of time putting together, would hate for that to get lost, messed up, badges and patches ripped off, that type of thing. So just please don't bring your uniform. And then the other thing that I recommend for parents is utilizing our Bunk One service. So Bunk One is a company that we partner with that allows any family member to send a one-way email to our resident campers. So what I mean is, at the end of the day or first thing in the morning, you're like, oh, I want to write a letter to my camper. Bunk One allows you to do this, right? So you sit down, you write your letter, you send it off through the Bunk One service. Each day at 11 o'clock, we get all of those letters that have been written. We print them all off just as you sent them to us, and we put them in the mail bins for your camper to receive during meal time, that hour after lunch. Again, it's not a requirement. You can bring mail with you to check in. You can send it through the post. Although if you're going to send it real mail style, you need to do it at least a week in advance. And so Bunk One's just kind of that easy, simple, at your own pace kind of mail opportunity. And if you want to take advantage of Bunk One, there's a Bunk One form on our website that'll kind of walk you through those steps for setup purposes. All right, so let's switch gears and talk a little bit about day camp. So again, day camp, this is the first time that as a council, we're going to be offering day camp at Camp Conowingo. So basically your days at day camp are going to look very similar to your days if you were a resident camp camper, with the exception, obviously, that we don't do dinner and there are no evening activities because you guys will be at home for that opportunity. So again, arrival times might change, but 9 a.m. we're going to hopefully be finishing up with arrivals. We're going to be doing breakfast. 9:30 we're going to jump into activities. Lunch at 12:30. More activities after lunch. 4 o'clock we'll do that snack, and then 5 p.m. is going to be that checkout departure time. So pretty similar to our resident camp experience, but just on a slightly condensed schedule. So just a few day camp tips. And again, this will be the first year that we're having day camp at Conowingo, so my tips aren't as detailed, but these are just a few things that I think are important. So for our day camp campers, preparation is key. Really, it's key for any of our campers. But talk to your camper about what she can expect at day camp. What kind of activities is she going to be doing? Do you want her to come home at the end of each day and tell you about her new friend or the exciting experiences that she happened? Kind of set up those expectations and just kind of help her prepare for what it's going to be like each and every day at camp. We still have, just like at resident camp, we don't allow technology, don't bring your valuables, uniform, money, food, all of that stuff. So that is all still the same. And then the other thing that I really recommend is a backpack of supplies. And again, just like packing for a resident camp, I hope that you will allow her to take the lead in her backpack of supplies. And so each day, or maybe the night before, have her pack a backpack of the things that she thinks she's going to need throughout the day, right? So this kind of goes back into the preparation part of it. So, have her, does she need to bring a book? Because during downtime or between activities, or maybe, between archery shots, she likes to read. That's her thing. That's her go-to. Does she need to bring, colored pencils and a sketchbook because that's her thing? She likes to draw those things. Obviously, you can make sure she's bringing the essentials, water bottle, sunscreen, extra mask, those types of things, but allow her to kind of pack the rest of it so that she can feel confident and ready to take on the day and all the activities that she's going to be participating in. I'm really interested to see, I've talked to a few other camp directors about this particular thing, and I'm interested to see how the supplies change from Monday to Friday. If she packs this huge backpack of things on Monday, kind of how small that backpack might become by Friday when she's really honed in and she knows exactly what she needs. But again, that's her taking the leadership on her experience, gaining that independence that I think will be really important for her. So let's talk a little bit about our virtual campers. So again, virtual camp we started last summer, 2020, when we couldn't have in-person programming. The girls who participated had a really great time. And so we think that it's important to be able to continue to offer this style of camp to any Girl Scout that may want to participate in this way, who either she or her family aren't quite ready for in-person programming. A much more condensed schedule, as you can see here. So 9 a.m. is going to be sign on, 9:15 we'll begin activities, we'll break them into their program areas, their breakout rooms, so to speak, and then 12 o'clock is sign off at the very latest with kind of instructions with the next day. Some tips that we learned from last year, which in all honesty, I'm sure you guys are way more experts in than I am based on all the different virtual school options that are going on right now. But we do recommend that you log in a little beforehand just in case there are any issues with connection. That way you know that you're going to be on there and by 9 a.m. ready to kind of join your group. Please let your counselors know if you need to leave the Zoom call so that they can be in the big room ready to let you back in. We had a couple experiences last year where campers left the call, and then when they came back, nobody was aware of that. And so it took us a long time to get them back in with their group. So if you know you're going to leave ahead of time, totally okay. Just let your counselors know so that they can know to be there to let you back. And then also, again, this one I'm sure is second nature at this point with schooling, but to please limit the distractions. That could be other technology going around, right? When we're working day to day, multitasking sometimes isn't our best friend. Multitasking during virtual camp, definitely not going to be our best friend. If you have two campers participating in virtual camp at the same time, make sure they're spaced out a little bit just in case somebody's doing an activity that's really loud and somebody's doing an activity that needs a little more quiet or a little more focus. That way they can get the most out of camp that they can each and every day. There is a question asking about camp staff and how they're gonna, like, how that applies to kind of the different methods of camp. So our camp staff, who, similar to myself, all have camp names, and only our staff use camp names. We'll use campers' real names all throughout camp. They're going to be assigned to programs for all the methods as just like normal. And for our new campers, what normal means is for our virtual campers who are, let's say, doing, let's say, Camp and More, which is one of our virtual programs for this year for the brownies. Those brownies will have specific staff assigned to them that will be there in the breakout room leading activities with them each and every day, just like the Camp and More day campers will have their staff assigned to them who will be leading programs for them, but just in person. And so the staff will remain the same throughout the week so that you're getting that part of the traditional camp experience, regardless of how you're choosing to come to camp this year. There's another question in there. Where do the camp names come from? Do all the staff use them? So the answer is yes to the second question. All staff will use a camp name. It's a long-standing Girl Scout camp tradition. Some of our staff have had their camp names since they were very young, like maybe they earned it while they were growing up. Some camp staff, like myself, who didn't grow up in the camping world or in the Girl Scout world, we got our names a lot later in life. Mine was still given to me. I didn't necessarily pick it. And some of our camp staff, when they arrive to camp, will pick their camp name. And the reason we have camp names is because camp staff are in that realm or in that space where we're not parents. We don't take on that role. We're not teachers, so to speak, in kind of that formal setting. We're somewhere in the middle where we're still role models. We're still people who are going to enforce the rules and make sure they're being safe. But we're also people that have lots and lots of fun with them. And so for that kind of in-between space, the camp name really helps kind of bridge that gap, so to speak. And they're a lot of fun. Camp names come from anywhere from, again, things that they've done to earn those camp names, talking a whole lot, moving a lot, favorite food, things of that nature. And then sometimes there are their favorite book character or movie character or things of that nature as well. But again, only the camp staff have camp names. Your campers, we will be using their real names all throughout camp. So I've mentioned the trading post, so let's talk a little bit more about that, and then we will also be talking about our camp care kits here. So our camp care kits are actually available for all, regardless of how you're choosing to come to camp this year. So camp care kits are available for resident campers, day campers, and virtual campers. So the way that this works is this is actually last year's flyer. So it'll look very similar to this, just with a slightly, you'll notice here that it's missing an item, so this will be updated. But for the most part, so you're going to start with this dry bag. So it's a bag that you put things in that stays dry on the inside, even if the outside gets wet. And then that also comes with a postcard pre-stamped so that she can send mail to you during the week. And then, it is a build your own style care package. So again, you'll start with this item, and then, if she wants a logoed water bottle, maybe she wants a fan because it's going to be hot. Maybe she, again, is that drawer and so wants this like activity journal, things of that nature. You can choose to add those things on or not. You just get the dry bag. I personally am very excited for these tie-dye sunglasses that I don't know if you can see, but right here on the side there, they actually say Camp Conowingo. So they wouldn't let us purchase these last year because they're holding off and they want them to be a part of the camp care package. But they are going to let us purchase these this year, and I can't wait. I think these are going to be really awesome. So for our in-person campers, if you're coming to camp via resident or day camp, your camp care package will be handed out to you on Monday after lunch. That will be when care packages are delivered. If you're choosing to come to camp virtually this summer any items you order for the camp care package will come to you in your supply box. So the supplies that you need for the rest of camp will also include all of your camp care package items. There is a early bird cost or price associated with camp care kits, just like there is for resident or for all of our camps. So if you order prior to June 1st, you actually will be saving about $5 on your total cost. The other thing that I need to mention about care kits is that they have to be ordered by the Thursday prior to your camper's session. So, and if you're having your box shipped, you obviously would want to order it sooner than that. But for those of you picking up your care kits, or if they're being delivered to camp, they have to be ordered by the Thursday prior to your camper session by 4 p.m. And there are no exceptions to this. The camp care packages are run and organized by the store. And so they've got a lot going on, and if you get it in after 4 o'clock, unfortunately, that order will not be processed. But if you have any questions about the camp care kits, please email the store. It's just gscmstore@gscm.org, and they can help you out with all of that. For our on-site campers, so resident and day camp, you also will have access to the trading post. Again, this is clearly last year's, but each girl, when she comes to the trading post, will get a form that kind of looks like this, that will tell her, it'll have her name right here, will tell her the amount that she has to spend, and then she'll go shopping, so to speak, in the trading post every Monday. So the trading post is only open on Mondays this year. And so your camper, her program will be assigned a time, be it, that first block, let's say, from 9 to 10:30, that's when her group is going to the trading post. That's fine. If your camper doesn't want to participate, or you choose not to participate in the trading post, also totally fine. Both of these things are optional. They're not requirements. There are the staff will be leading like games or another activity outside the trading post that all the girls will be participating in the whole time, except for that short time that they're inside shopping, because not everybody can obviously go in at one time. So it'll be a group rotation, so to speak. One of the questions I always get about the trading post is how much money, like what's the average? Generally speaking, it's around $25 to $30 is a plenty of money to spend in the trading post. And then any unused funds will be refunded to you at the end of the week. So it's not like we're going to keep it and never give it back to you. If your camper only, you put in $30 and your camper only spends $5, we will give the additional $25 back to you. It'll come back to you in her end of the week envelope that includes other things as well. But in that envelope will be this card with a receipt stapled to it and any funds that we're returning. Let's see, there's a question about what items are generally in the trading post. So that's a great question, and it's actually really hard to answer, in all honesty, because the items in the trading post not only will change week to week, but also summer to summer. So generally speaking, you're going to find items in there that some of them are useful around camp. So one year they had these collapsible fans that the girls could pop out and then like manually fan themselves, which were obviously all the rage because of how warm it is during the day. So that's a useful item. To sometimes they are just things to have fun with, a Frisbee or something of that nature. We also will sell, old camper t-shirts in the trading post for years that we still have them available in certain sizes. So if your camper has outgrown hers, lost hers, or just wants another one to tie-dye, there are generally old camp shirts in there. In years past, there have been sweatshirts in the trading post. And to be fair, that happened for 2 summers. And for both summers, we couldn't keep them on the shelves. The sweatshirts just sold and sold and sold and sold. Even though it really is warm during the summer, we just couldn't keep the sweatshirts on the shelves. There are items in there for $1, and there are going to be items in there for $25. So it really ranges, all the way through. Some weeks the store will try and get items in there that are themed to the programs. So for the weeks where we have some of our superhero programs, they sometimes in the past have had superhero themed bandanas and other superhero items so that the girls can, potentially purchase some things that relate directly to her program. It's not always there. It's not always a guarantee, but the items in the store are wide ranging, and the girls normally can go in and at least find something that excites them. So again, training post, camp care package, both optional, both available to your camper depending on the way in which she's coming to camp this summer. So where can you find us other than our GSCM website, which is a great resource? It's where our Great Adventures is posted. It's a huge book full of tons and tons and tons of useful information. Please check it out if you haven't already. But other than that, on social media, we are on Instagram. You can find us at Conowingo_camp. We try and post things here that are more kind of probably camper themed, getting people excited about different programs or dates, or, if we hire our first international staff, things of that nature, last year, I think during March or April, our CITs organized a theme week where each day people dressed in different themes. And so we posted some of those on our Instagram account. So those are the types of things that we're going to post there. Alternatively, or additionally, you can also find us on Facebook in a group called Camp Conowingo Resident Camp Parents. This is a closed group. You have to answer security questions and be approved to come in. I encourage this group if you're on Facebook for several reasons. One, we post photos here each day for all of our in-person programming, where that way parents and other members of your family can stay connected, engaged, and see what your camper is doing without actually being there on property with us. So again, we'll be posting photos each day. Generally speaking, the photos go up in the evenings though, so they're available kind of the next morning when you will wake up, because when we say evening at camp, we generally mean probably 11, 12 o'clock at night. And then in addition to that, it's where we post updates. Maybe you guys are getting a really bad thunderstorm down in Baltimore or Annapolis, but it's, beautiful blue skies up at the camp, which happens often during the summer. We'll post things like that. We'll say, we know you guys are getting some nasty weather down south, but things here at camp are beautiful. That way kind of helps that nervousness, eases those fears maybe, so to speak. We also will post things, when the buses leave on time, or if the buses are leaving late, or if when we might expect the buses, things of that nature, so that everybody kind of can stay up to date with information that we know that might be quicker than other means. So that's our parent Facebook page, which again is a closed group. You have to answer security questions. And this, even though it says Camp Conowingo Resident Camp Parents, if you are a day camp parent or a virtual camp parent, you are also more than welcome. I highly encourage you to join this group as well. This is just the title of the group prior to this summer when we're hosting day and virtual for the first and second time. So now let's talk a little bit about open house. So I mentioned this is one of our important dates. Again, it's June 20th this year. It's at camp. The time might change a little bit, but right now it's on the calendar from noon to 5. It is $5 per person, except for dads who get in free. You can register in advance or day of, like at camp, you can pay at the gate. What is open house and why do I recommend it? Why is it so important? Really, it's an opportunity for you and your camper and potentially the rest of your family, siblings, grandparents, aunts and uncles, all of them are welcome to camp and enjoy some of the camp activities. We'll have our rock wall up, the canoes will be out, we'll have horses on main camp for people to pet. You can't ride them, there's too many of you guys, but they're there just, to kind of say hello. Arts and crafts will be open. And then probably more importantly, the top two things, you can take a tour of camp. So if you've never been to camp before, it's a great opportunity to go walk around camp. Maybe your camper gets to see the potential living units where she's in. If she's a junior, she can walk inside the teepees and inside a Glen shelter, just so she knows what they both look like before she arrives to camp. And then you also get to meet the staff, the people who are going to be responsible for caring for the safety of your camper and making sure she's having an amazing time. They will be on hand as well. And then there'll also be some food in the dining hall. Now, this is going to be one of those activities where traditionally in years past, we've run it where it's just kind of come as you will. And it might be the same this year, but we also might be altering it slightly to have time blocks just to make sure that we don't exceed too many people at one given time, but that's in the works and will be decided in the next few days. And so you can register for that online or again in person, day of. It's June 20th, 2021. And I highly recommend attending open house if you've never done so before. So that's kind of the end of our webinar for this evening. So again, if you need to find us, we're online, gscm.org. There's that camp tab, and you'll be able to drop down and find a bunch of different information. This is my contact information. You can email me at camp@gscm.org. That's my phone number and extension for whenever we're back in the office. If you do need to set up a phone call because you feel like you have questions that would be better answered or go more in detail with over the phone, totally fine. Shoot me an email that says, hey, I'd love to set up a phone call with you, and I'm more than happy to do that even while we're working remotely. So I know I answered some questions kind of along the way, but I will double check that there aren't any additional questions in the question log that I might have missed. Oh, here's one. Do girls earn badges while at camp? This is actually a great question. So every camper will get the Camp Conowingo patch. Well, every new camper, I should say, will get the Camp Conowingo patch and then the year rocker for this year. And then some programs will earn badges while they're at camp. Some programs won't. However, all of our campers, I mentioned that the Trading Post money will get refunded end of week in your camper's envelope. In that envelope will also be a parent letter, and on the back of that letter will be all of the activities that she worked on or any badges that they started, so that you can know exactly which steps they've already accomplished and maybe finish that badge at home. Or if they've accomplished a badge, they finished all the steps that week, which, to be fair, a lot of our programs do, but it's based on kind of girl choice and staff programming. Then on that same parent letter, on the activity list, it'll tell you which badges they earned so that you know that as well. So that's for badges while at camp. Another question, how do we handle food allergies at camp? Is there somebody specifically they need to speak to? Great question. It really depends on the allergy or the dietary restriction on how we handle it. So at camp, generally during meals, we will have a vegetarian, a gluten-free option always available. And then as necessary, things like lactose intolerant. Those are all dietary restrictions that our kitchen staff are all very comfortable with. We handle them quite frequently. We are essentially a peanut-free camp, where we can't say we're 100% nut-free, but we don't cook with items that have, like, we don't use nuts in our cooking. We don't have peanut butter at camp. We don't have things of that nature. Still, please list if your camper has a nut allergy and the severity of it. And then we will make alterations as the week comes. If you have specific questions about food allergies or dietary restrictions, I'm the person you want to talk to. So again, that email that's on screen, camp@gscm.org, shoot me an email. We can talk about it. There's also a space in the registration form for you to list and talk about your camper's allergy or dietary restriction. Please make sure you fill that out, because that's actually what we generally print out and give to our kitchen for them for as they're preparing for the next week or the week after. But great question. Here's one. Is financial assistance available? Yes is the answer. Again, as you go through the registration process, one of the questions you get asked really early on is, do you intend to apply for financial aid? It's a yes, no. If you select yes, there are additional questions for you to answer. Please make sure you fill out all of the questions that are asked, because we can't award financial aid if the application, so to speak, isn't complete. And then we award financial aid on a rolling basis until funds are exhausted. And then you'll be able to see if your camper was awarded financial aid on your RegPack profile. In her profile, it'll say, like in her cart where she's got the program listed, it'll then say if she's been awarded financial aid, because there'll be a discount associated with that. So let me just double check. Oh, here's one. So what grade levels can attend the Girls Just Want to Have Fun program? I apologize for not mentioning that. So Girls Just Want to Have Fun is open for girls in kindergarten through rising 5th graders. So if you're in 4th grade now, which makes you a rising 5th grader, you're eligible for the Girls Just Want to Have Fun program. If you're currently in 5th grade or older, unfortunately you've aged out, and you and your favorite female role model are unfortunately no longer able to attend that program. So again, that's for girls rising K to 5th graders. For the Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And again, it is only the one night, the Saturday night, that you would stay at camp. All right, let me just double check. All right, well, I'm not seeing any additional questions that we haven't already talked about or wasn't part of the presentation. But again, if you do have any further questions, you want to chat with me, I love to talk about camp. It is all the way deep in my core. I'm very passionate about camp and getting girls outside all year round, but especially during our summer months. So please feel free to email me. Just remember camp@gscm.org. And other than that, thank you guys, and I will talk to you soon.